Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha, Madhava Hari Radha, Madhava Hari Radhe. Jaya Srinaji Gopal, Srinaji Gopal, Srinaji Gopal, Jaya Srinaji Gopal. Jaya Srinaji Gopal, Srinaji Gopal, Srinaji Gopal, Jaya Srinaji Gopal. Jaya Nitai Gaura Hari, Jaya Nitai Gaura Hari, Jaya Nitai Gaura Hari, Jaya Gaura Hari. Jaya Nitai Gaura Hari, Jaya Nitai Gaura Hari, Jaya Nitai Gaura Hari, Jaya Gaura Hari. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
HDMI one.
You just have to turn the screen on.
Yeah,
If
it's
it
on.
doesn't
It's
do
already-
remote, there's
No.
probably some switch on the back.
Here we have an option to on.
No, but you have to have the screen on. This power over here, that's what's relaxing. I can.
Because remote reading? Do you have a remote or something for that? Has it started? It started, but later ಅದು ದಾಂದಿ. Oh. Three? Yeah.
Yay!
No, actually it's on three. Or we can put it to one.
Okay, yeah. Unplug it.
Oh.
Yes.
Yay. Shanti, let's go sit down. Yesterday was? I know. Somewhere there's a button. Okay. Yesterday was? The Shinga Chaturdasi. And today is?
Appearance of Radha.
the Purnima day. And on the Purnima day, many nice things happened the day after Nrsimha Chaturdasi. One of them was we discussed this morning, or midday, the appearance of Srinivasacharya. And Srinivasacharya, we discussed all about his life. But a very important acharya in our line of disciplic succession. And if these lights can go out, you can see the screen even better. Does somebody know how to turn this light out? Boy, that was brilliant. I bet that one goes out too. Over there by the refrigerator, there's another. Okay. So, the appearance day of Radha Ramana. And a third appearance day is the appearance day of Madhvacharya, which we'll discuss tomorrow at the Sunday program. Madhavendra Puri. So, just set it down right here. To speak about the appearance of Radharaman, we're going to have to speak something about Gopal Bhatta Goswami, the life of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we discussed this earlier today. The year of his appearance was 1486. And Gopal Bhatta Goswami, later he became, but Gopal Bhatta, son of Venkata Bhatta, was born 14 years later. So the year 1500. And then Lord Chaitanya took sannyas at the age of 24. So at the age of 24, that means Gopal was then 10 years old when he visited Sri Rangam, or 11 years old. So a young boy. And according to Gora Gonadesh Dipika, that's a book that is like a who's who. Everybody that's in Gora Lila has his counterpart in Krishna Lila. You with me? Just like Lord Nityananda, Balaram, so therefore Nityananda Ram. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself, so Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And each one of the Panchatattva, each one of the associates of Lord Chaitanya. Let's go to the spiritual world for a moment. We'll come back to Phoenix and real quickly, but according to Brahma Samhita, the realm of Goloka has quadrants or 4 parts. Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka. Now what's the 4th part? Sweta Dweep, in the language of Brahma Samhita. Sweta Dweep. Sweta means white and Dweepa means island. So the place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performs his eternal pastimes in Goloka Vrindavan, that's the 4th quadrant. Vrindavan, Mathura, Dwarka, and Svetadweep. Bhaktisiddhanta says, those who are followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who develop or receive the gift that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to give, Braja Prem, something very amazing happens. Not only they go back to Godhead to participate with Krishna in Krishna's eternal pastimes, simultaneously they attain Svetadweep and take part in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's spiritual pastimes in Svetadweep. Doesn't give the technology of how that happens. But that's the spiritual consequence of receiving the gift of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And therefore, the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understand that everybody, all the associates of Lord Chaitanya, they have their spiritual counterpart with Krishna Lila, just like Rupa Goswami. Not only the Panchatattva, but all of the Lord Chaitanya's associates. Rupa Goswami's spiritual identity is Sri Rupa Manjari. And Sri Rupa Manjari is the intimate assistant of Lalita. And Lalita is the intimate assistant of Radha, who intimately is serving Krishna. So Rupa Goswami is a natural one to have expressed the right in written form, the teaching of Lord Chaitanya about bhakti. That's what he did. He wrote Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and Upadesh Amrita, and Ujjvala Nilamani, and other wonderful books. Books that are giving the teachings of bhakti. And his principal deity is Govindaji, who is the presiding deity of the process of devotional service, Abhideya, bhakti. And so on. Each one of the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was like that. Gopal Bhatta Goswami, pictured here on our right, but on the screen's left, he in Gaura Gunadesh Dipika is Guna Manjari. And that's Guna Manjari is one of the very confidential associates. The Manjaris are young girls that, because of their young age, they're permitted to. Could you not do that? It's very distracting. It's like firing a gun at somebody. Thanks. So he, Gopal Bhatta, the son of Venkata Bhatta, took birth in a very remote place. But because he's an eternal associate of Krishna and an eternal associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even before Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, he knew of his appearance when he took sannyas, which was at the age of 24, sometime before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to do his South India tour. Gopal Bhatta knew of Lord Chaitanya's appearance and he knew of his sannyas. This is described in Bhakti Ratnakar. And he cried, a 9-year-old boy, crying that Lord Chaitanya took sannyas. We heard earlier today about Madhu the barber, and he was the father of Srinivasacharya, Gangadhar Bhattacharya. When he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu having his head shaved and taking sannyas and given the name Sri Krishna Chaitanya, he was literally stunned for a month. So deep was the devotion of these intimate associates. So Gopal had a dream. And in his dream, this is in Bhakti Ratnakar, Lord Chaitanya revealed his Navadvip pastime. Navadvip pastimes means when he was a grahastha and had long hair and, Nimai Pandit, married, and Lord Chaitanya revealed to him his pastimes. And this was confirmed not only in Bhakti Ratnakar, but we heard earlier today, those of you that were with us, you'll probably remember, Narahari. Narahari, just like in our Gaura Arti we say his name, Narahari was an intimate associate of Lord Chaitanya who lived in Srikanda, and Narahari confirmed that Lord Chaitanya revealed his Navadvip pastimes to Gopal when Gopal wasn't even 10 years old yet. He was crying and crying. Lord Chaitanya's taken sannyas. He couldn't stand it. So Lord Chaitanya gave him this special mercy. So there's an intimacy of relationship even before these transcendental personalities meet. That's the point. So Gopal was born, I visited the house where the Venkatabhatta and his descendants reside. It's part of Sri Rangam. It's a little area where the Brahmanas all reside, something like what Prabhupada was indicating what Mayapur should have, in areas where the Kshatriyas reside and areas where the Brahmanas reside, like that. So Sri Rangam is set up like that. So he was born in that part of Sri Rangam as the son of Venkatabhatta. He had two uncles, or his father had two brothers, Tirumala and Prabodhananda. Prabodhananda later became the Diksha Guru because the father didn't give it Diksha to his son, the uncle gave Diksha to his son. So Prabodhananda Saraswati was also present when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the year 1510, which means Gopal was about 10 years old. And so I'm going to describe, this is about the life of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and it's significant. It has something to do with the discussion, one of the discussions that took place today, about the distinction between the teachings of Madhvacharya and the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because we're in the same line, but there's some difference and some similarity, primarily similarity, but some difference. In Sri Rangam, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the deity of Ranganath, he was dancing and dancing and dancing and dancing in ecstatic love of Godhead, with showing external symptoms of bhava, ecstasy of love of Godhead. And the pujaris there had never seen anything like that before. They were used to awe and veneration. And here's this other display of something else they had never seen before. And Venkatabhatta also observed and invited this sannyasi Brahmin to stay at his home for 4 months during the rainy season. And so he accepted the invitation, part of a transcendental arrangement to give association to Gopal. So for 4 months, here's this 10-year-old boy, picture, an eternal associate of Lord Chaitanya, having the opportunity for personally serving him every day for 4 months. And serving him meant, in addition to the menial things that he would do, they would have discussions. Lord Chaitanya would give him instructions in spiritual life. So he became thoroughly conversant in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's rendering of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. He had learned naturally from his father and from the Sri Vaishnavas Ramanujacharya's rendering, the Sri Vaishnava version. Now he was hearing directly from Lord Chaitanya. the Gaudiya version of Vedanta Sutra and the Puranas and the Vedas and Achintya Veda Veda Tattva and the very special love of the residents of Vrindavan. So let's go back to the spiritual world again. We'll come back to Phoenix quickly. There's a nice verse in Sri Brahma Samhita. Golokanamni nijadamni tale chatasya Devi maheshu haridama suteshu teshu te te prabhava niyatas vihitascha yena Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So in that verse, Bhaktisiddhanta says, Lord Brahma is offering a prayer to Govinda, looking up. From his position, at the very top of this universe, there's Devi Dham, this universe, the abode of Devi. And above Devi Dham is Mahesh Dham. And above Mahesh Dham is Hari Dham. And above Hari Dham is Goloka Dham. This is a description in Brahma Samhita of the structure of the universe and the spiritual sky above this universe, beyond this universe, the Paravyom, the spiritual sky. So in that spiritual sky, there's Vaikuntha planets, and worshippers in the Sri Sampradaya, their mode of worship is Vaikuntha worship, or Narayana, the Lord of Vaikuntha, where opulence, Aishvarya, predominates. So the worship is done in that way, the Aishvarya mood, because in Vaikuntha the opulence supersedes millions of times the opulence of the heavenly planets. And eternally situated like that, the Lord of all bhagas or opulences resides in Vaikuntha. So all those opulences, it's on veneration, that's the mood. And the destination is Vaikuntha. So one time, so Lord Chaitanya was explaining the special position of Goloka and the love of the residents of Goloka. He was giving Braja Prem to Gopal. So the father, Venkatabhatta, and his two brothers, Tirumala and Prabodhananda, they would have discussions on spiritual topics, naturally. Kathayantas chamam nityam tushanti cha ramanti cha. That's what elevated persons do. They discuss topics about the personality of Godhead, about transcendence, and relish those topics, sound vibration. So one evening, this is described in detail in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya asked a question of the father, Venkatabhatta. The question was, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, is known to be the most chaste of all personalities. So why is it that Lakshmi left the lotus feet of Narayana and went to try to enter into the rasa dance of Krishna? And Venkatabhatta said, there's no lack of chastity on her part, because Narayana and Krishna, they're the same. Which is true. Then Lord Chaitanya said, however, if Narayana and Krishna are the same, why was she not allowed to enter into the rasa dance of Krishna? Not only she wasn't allowed to enter, but she underwent austerities in order to have the opportunity to enter into the rasa dance of Krishna, and she was still not permitted to enter into the rasa dance of Krishna if they're the same. And Venkatabhatta said, I don't know, but I think you know. So could you explain? And then he explained that the love of Lakshmi for Narayana is in this Vaikuntha mood, awe and veneration. And the awe and veneration mood doesn't fit in Vrindavan, because in Vrindavan, the Madhurya mood is so strong, it eclipses, it overwhelms the Aishvarya mood. The fullness of the opulence of Narayana is within Krishna, but there's something additional within Krishna. That is the sweetness aspect, the intimacy aspect. That's the love of Braja. And her love didn't qualify for entrance into the pastimes of Krishna. Although she's the goddess of fortune, the pastimes of Krishna have an intimacy that in order to enter into the pastimes of Krishna, it's not just who you are, it's receive the mercy of the eternal associates of Krishna. Now, if you read carefully, when you read carefully Nectar of Devotion, you'll find this in Rupa Goswami's teachings, because it's Lord Chaitanya's teachings. He was teaching to Venkata about Braja Prem. So, we are sadhakas, or we're trying to be. And that means we're following the regulations, the vidhis of sadhana bhakti. And when one follows those regulations of sadhana bhakti, there's purification that takes place. And the purification that takes place awakens the natural love for Krishna that's there, and then a spontaneous stage of devotion awakens, and through the association of the ragatmikas, the eternal associate, perfected associates, by becoming internally absorbed in the mood of the ragatmika bhaktas, one can enter into raga, nuga bhakti, and then bhava bhakti and prema bhakti. That's nectar devotion. He was teaching that to Venkatapata in a simple way. And Gopal heard the whole thing. He heard the whole thing for 4 months. So at the end, Venkatapata was very happy. He said, after all, it's okay, because Krishna is Krishna and Narayana is Narayana, and they're the same. He just backpedaled and made everything very smooth. But rasa is important. Lord Chaitanya came to give the gift of Braja Prem. We have this prayer that we offer when we offer our foodstuffs to the deity or to our altar, or at our altar. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gora Tushe Namaha. That this Mahavadanyaya, this munificence, Krishna Prema Pradayate, he's the giver of Krishna Prema. Even more specifically, he's the giver of Braja Prem. Because Krishna in Braja is the topmost position of the personality of Godhead, as described in Srimad Bhagavatam. On the authority of Srimad Bhagavatam, we say like that. And the authority of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we say like that. And he's explaining the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam very nicely to Venkatapata, and naturally to his son Gopal. So Gopal is hearing this, and for the whole time that Lord Chaitanya was there. Imagine a little 10-year-old boy and a pure devotee, sannyasi, intimately associating together for 4 months. They became attached to one another. She's cute. And she's having a good time. So, when it came time for Lord Chaitanya to continue his travels, because he's one of the opulences of the personality of Godhead is renunciation, it was time to go. And so when he wanted to go, Gopal wanted to go with him. And Lord Chaitanya said, no, you stay here and serve your mother and father, and at the right time they'll give their permission, and you can go see Rupa and Sanatan Goswami and reside in Vrindavan with them. He's 10 years old. For another 20 years he remained. He left when he was 30. His mother and father said, you can go now. Before we leave this world, you go and take the association of Rupa and Sanatan. So during those 20 years, here's Gopal, school age, 10 years old, as bright as anyone can be. And he had full access to everything to do with deity worship because his father's the chief priest. So he knew intimately the affairs of deity worship, being the son of the chief priest. And he also had heard Lord Chaitanya's teachings, and he had access to the Sri Vaishnava teachings. So he did two things. They didn't have a computer, but he kept very careful notes. I don't know if you know people that keep careful notes. I do. But he had two sets of notes. One was on rituals, or how to observe everything that Vaishnavas observe, and the mantras and the tantras and the procedures and the everything. And he compiled all of that consistent with Lord Chaitanya's teachings. So I don't know if you know devotee families from a Sri Vaishnava background. Probably you do. I certainly do. And many of the mantras that they use in their worship are the same mantras that we use in our worship, because they were written, they're from the section of the Vedas, Narada the Pancharatra section, the Pancharatrika section. You know this verse from Rupa Goswami, Shruti, Smriti, Puranadi, Pancharatrika Vidhim Vinar, Aikuntaki Harer Bhaktir Utpataya Kalpate. It's a verse in which he says, when people make statements or do things in spiritual life without reference to the scripture, utpat, it's a big disturbance. Or the positive. Anything that we say or do should be in the context and reference to scripture. We need to know what the scripture says.